The story begins with a little orphan girl named Heidi. Her aunt Diet no longer wants to keep her, so she decides to take her to Heidi's grandfather's house. Everyone in the village is terrified of Heidi's grandfather because they all believe he's a murderer. But Diet, wanting to get rid of her responsibility, chooses to leave Heidi with him anyway. On the way, Heidi takes off her heavy, oversized frock and begins to enjoy the beauty of nature around her. When Diet finally arrives at Alpohai's place with Heidi, he refuses to keep the girl. Hearing this, Diet pretends that she will take Heidi back with her, but instead, she secretly hides Heidi near Alpohai's house and quickly runs away. Alpohai notices Heidi and calls out to Diet, telling her to take the child with her, but Diet ignores his voice, doesn't listen, and leaves the place in a hurry. Furious, Alpohai doesn't let Heidi come inside his house. Instead, he locks the door from the inside, leaving poor Heidi to sleep outside among the animals. But the next morning, Alpohai comes to Heidi and offers her goat's milk to drink. Then he takes her with him to a church, where the priest checks her and tells Alpohai that Heidi is perfectly healthy. Still, for now, it will be Alpohai's responsibility to keep her until further notice. The priest assures him that as soon as another farmer needs help, Heidi will be sent there for work. Back home, Heidi tries to find a place outside to sleep, but this time Alpohai finally lets her come inside with him. But inside the house, there was only one bed, so Heidi went upstairs and made herself a little bed out of hay, where she slept and began living. The next day, a boy named Peter was taking Alpohai's goats out to graze. Alpohai sent Heidi with him so she could also learn how to look after them. He even packed a lunch for her. Heidi felt free for the first time in a long while, and she was truly happy. Meanwhile, Peter secretly ate a little bit of her lunch. Later, he told Heidi that the goats had eaten it. As the two of them were talking, suddenly two goats started fighting each other. Peter quickly grabbed a stick and beat them apart, but Heidi stopped him and said, "Don't hit them. Instead, I'll share half of my lunch with you every day." Peter agreed, but he told Heidi not to tell Alpohai about it. Then he also whispered to her about the rumors of a murder, the reason why people feared her grandfather. Because of this, Heidi started behaving differently with Alpohai when she came home. But Alpohai gently told her, "Don't listen to people. Listen to your own heart." Hearing this, Heidi finally believed that her grandfather was not a murderer. She ran to him and hugged him tightly. The next day, Heidi once again went out with Peter to graze the goats. Meanwhile, Alpohai secretly worked on something special. To make Heidi happy, he built her a dining chair. When Heidi saw it, she was completely shocked. Alpohai told her, "You can stay with me." Hearing this, Heidi was overjoyed, and from that day, the bond between them grew strong. Heidi and Peter also became very good friends. One day, Peter told Heidi that he would soon be going to school, and because of that, they wouldn't be able to play together every day. Hearing this, Heidi also asked her grandfather to let her go to school, but Alpohai refused. Many people tried to convince him, but he did not agree to send her. He knew that in the winter she wouldn't be able to go outside, and once winter came, it truly became impossible for Heidi to leave the house. Being forced to stay indoors made Heidi feel sad and restless. Seeing her unhappy, Alpohai carved a wooden bird toy for her, hoping to bring a little joy back to her face. But the wooden bird was not enough to take away Heidi's sadness. Seeing her still unhappy made Alpohai feel deeply hurt. Wanting to cheer her up, he built a sled that could move across the snow and took Heidi outside with him. After so many days of being indoors, Heidi's mood finally lifted. She smiled, laughed, and felt free again. After that, Alpohai took Heidi to Peter's house. There, Peter lived with his mother and grandmother. Their situation was very poor, and even without a father in the house, Peter's mother worked hard to send him to school, hoping that one day he would make something of himself. But Peter didn't have much interest in studying. Seeing all of this, Heidi felt touched. That evening, when she came home, she hugged Alpohai tightly, and the two of them lived happily together. Heidi helped Alpohai in everything, sharing his daily chores and responsibilities. But one day, Diet returned once again. She told Alpohai that she had come to take Heidi back with her. She explained that she had now found a good job, and with her new income, she would not only take good care of Heidi, but also send her to school. Alpohai did not believe her words and refused to let Heidi go. He couldn't understand why Diet suddenly wanted to take Heidi back now, after abandoning her earlier. Diet pretended to be very guilty about her past mistake, acting as if she was ashamed of what she had done. She made it look like she was leaving without Heidi, but in truth, she was planning to trick Alpohai. She went searching for Heidi on her own. At that time, Heidi was playing outside with Peter. Diet found her there and told her to come back home with her, but Heidi refused. That's when Diet lied and said, "Even Alpohai doesn't want to keep you anymore." Hearing this broke Heidi's heart, and she felt very hurt. And so, Heidi agreed to go with Diet. Peter, with a heavy heart, took the goats back all alone. When Alpohai realized that Heidi had not returned with Peter, he immediately understood what had happened. He rushed out, hoping to stop her, but by then it was already too late. Diet had taken Heidi away. Data brought Heidi to a large house in Frankfurt. There, she introduced her to one of the servants. When Frau Rottenmeier saw Heidi for the first time, she did not like her at all. But Diet quickly reminded Frau Rottenmeier that she herself had once said they needed a child like Heidi, someone who could adjust to the household and keep her master's daughter, Klara, who was disabled, entertained. Hearing this, Frau Rottenmeier reluctantly agreed. Diet took money in exchange for Heidi and left her there. Soon after, Klara met Heidi. Klara was sitting in her wheelchair, and Heidi began to push her around playfully. But by mistake, Heidi broke a vase that was placed nearby. When Frau Rottenmeier noticed the broken vase, Klara immediately took the blame upon herself so that Heidi wouldn't get in trouble. Since Heidi was to become Klara's right hand, she was cleaned up, dressed in proper clothes, and taught the ways of the household. Heidi was given neat and beautiful outfits, and from then on, she began studying alongside Klara. But soon everyone discovered that Heidi did not know how to read or write at all, which left them all shocked. Frau Rottenmeier, seeing this, wanted to send Heidi away immediately. But since the master of the house had not yet returned, she couldn't make such a decision on her own. So Heidi's education was started as well. Heidi quickly adapted to the manners and lifestyle of the house, but the innocence and simplicity of her mountain childhood still showed in her behavior. In the meantime, she and Klara became very close friends. Klara began to open her heart to Heidi. She told her everything, that when her mother had died, the shock was so great that she never recovered. Klara had taken that loss so deeply to heart that she became unable to walk. But ever since Heidi had come into her life, she felt truly happy again. One night, instead of sleeping, Heidi asked a servant to open the window so she could feel the freshness of nature. But when Heidi looked outside, her face grew sad. There were no mountains, no greenery, only tall, endless buildings reaching into the sky. Seeing her disappointment, Sebastian told her, "If you want to see farther, you'll have to go up higher." One day, Heidi secretly took Klara outside with her. Klara was thrilled because she was never allowed to leave the house. The two of them enjoyed the outside world together. At one point, Heidi left Klara waiting below and climbed up a tall building, hoping she could finally see the mountains from there. But even from that height, all she saw were more buildings stretching across the city. Meanwhile, Klara sat alone among strangers, feeling nervous and lonely. Just then, a woman passed by selling kittens. Klara's eyes lit up, and she immediately bought them. A moment later, Sebastian found her, searching frantically. Klara quickly hid the kittens so he wouldn't see. When they returned home with the kittens, Frau Rottenmeier's cat allergy immediately took over. Instead of scolding Klara, she began sneezing and shouting uncontrollably. At that very moment, the kittens ran out into the open. Seeing them, Frau Rottenmeier shrieked in terror and climbed up onto a pole. Watching her panic made everyone laugh loudly. At lunch, however, she punished Heidi by making her stand and warning her never to make such mistakes again. All of this left Heidi feeling deeply hurt. She secretly gathered some hidden bread, planning to run away. But before she could leave, Frau Rottenmeier caught her. She looked at Heidi sternly and said, "You should be grateful. You've been given a life of comfort and luxury." For Heidi, it wasn't so much Frau Rottenmeier's harsh words that hurt her, but the sight of Klara crying. That pained her the most. After this situation, Klara fell seriously ill. When she finally began to feel a little better, Heidi went to her and explained, "I don't want to leave this house because of you." She shared everything about her struggles, her sadness, and her desire to stay by Klara's side. Klara understood her feelings, yet still insisted that Heidi should not leave. Soon things returned to normal again. The two of them started studying together. Reading came easily to Klara, but for Heidi, it was much more difficult. A few days later, Klara's grandmother and father arrived at the house. Seeing them, Frau Rottenmeier was not particularly pleased, but Klara was overjoyed to be reunited with her family. Klara's father was touched to see the close bond between his daughter and Heidi, but Frau Rottenmeier insisted to him that Heidi could not stay there any longer, that she would never truly adjust to the ways of their household. Klara's grandmother, however, decided she wanted to see and judge for herself. That night, Klara's grandmother sat with Heidi and began reading her a story. Midway through, she stopped and asked Heidi to continue. Heidi looked down and admitted that she didn't know how to read and that she didn't even want to. The grandmother spoke to her gently, encouraging her to focus on her studies, to try and not give up. Heidi listened and began to take her advice seriously. Later, Klara's grandmother told her son that Heidi was a bright and sensible girl, and with time she would learn to read and adapt as well. But she should not be forced to stay here against her will. She believed Heidi needed to be sent back home. Klara's father disagreed. He could see how happy Klara had become since Heidi's arrival, and he refused to send her away. Days passed, and strange noises began to be heard around the house. Doors were found mysteriously open. When the servants told Klara's father that the house was haunted, he dismissed their fears, refusing to believe such things. Meanwhile, Heidi practiced reading so she could finish the story for Klara's grandmother. In front of the whole family, she read aloud, and Klara's father, seeing her progress, felt reassured that Heidi did belong in the household. He declared that Heidi would stay there. This made Heidi very sad, but Klara was overjoyed. Soon after, Klara's grandmother returned to her own home. One night, Klara's father was playing chess with a friend when they both heard that same terrifying sound echoing through the house. Alarmed, they armed themselves with guns and began to search the place. To their shock, they discovered it was Heidi. She had been sleepwalking. In her trance, she opened the main door of the house and stepped outside, staring quietly at the night sky. Then she walked back to her room and lay down to sleep again. Klara's father's friend was actually a doctor, so he examined Heidi and noticed that she was trembling from the cold. When Heidi woke up, she opened her heart to the doctor and told him how she truly felt. Listening to her, The doctor later explained to Klara's father that Heidi was suffering from homesickness. He warned him that if she wasn't sent back home soon, she could even die. Even after hearing this, Klara's father still refused to send her away because of Klara. But that night, as he sat alone, he thought about his late wife and the pain of losing her. By morning, he made up his mind. He gently explained to Klara that Heidi had to leave. Hearing this, Klara was furious. She locked herself inside her room and refused to come out. When Heidi went to talk to her, Klara still wouldn't open the door. As the time came for Heidi to leave, she handed Klara's father the wooden bird that Alpohai had made for her. She said softly, "Please give this to Klara and tell her that I will definitely come back to visit her." Frau Rottenmeier was secretly delighted that Heidi was leaving. But when Heidi finally returned to her own town, everyone there welcomed her with joy. After reuniting with Peter, she went straight to see her grandfather. The moment they saw each other, they embraced, both overwhelmed with happiness. From then on, Heidi began attending school, ready to continue her life with new hope. Heidi studied hard and did well in school. But even in this happy life, she missed Klara deeply. She wrote letters to her, pouring out her feelings. When Klara read them, she felt very sad, because Heidi had left without even saying goodbye. Seeing Klara so upset, her grandmother decided to take her to visit Heidi's town. She left Klara there for a few days, so the two girls could be together again. Watching the closeness between Heidi and Klara made Peter jealous. Out of spite, he pushed Klara's wheelchair down the slope. Everyone knew it was Peter's doing, so Heidi's grandfather stayed close to both girls to make sure Klara wouldn't get hurt by him again. One day, Klara tried to catch a butterfly, and in her excitement, she began to move with Heidi's and Peter's help. Slowly, she started learning how to walk. When her grandmother returned to take her back, she was overjoyed to see Klara walking on her own 2 feet. Before leaving, Klara's grandmother gave Heidi a diary and a pen, telling her that now she could begin to fulfill her dream of writing. After Klara left, Heidi went back to her daily routine, herding goats with Peter and writing in her diary. And that was how the story found its happy ending. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss our latest uploads.